Welcome once again to the UFOcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Luke.
This is episode 23 out of 26.
Oh, we're coming to the end. We're on the last leg.
4 left, including this one. Yeah. Well, I'll miss it.
I will, yes. But we're going to carry on probably with something else.
Yeah. So, today we're discussing reflections in the water, not reflections on the water. Written and directed by David Tomblin, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a minute.
Yes.
Here we go with a terrible synopsis.
Yay!
Investigating reports of explosives imitating flying fish in the Atlantic, Straker and Foster find a huge dome underwater. Inside the dome they find an exact replica of Shadow headquarters, including exact replica people. When they hear the intimidating HQ giving instructions to Moonbase to permit a huge alien invasion of UFOs, they realise the fake HQ in the dome has been successfully deceiving Moonbase and something must be done. ... Fast. Look, that's what it says.
Oh, that is a particularly terrible synopsis, isn't it?
Yeah, because it misses out all that cool business at the beginning with the ship and Tracy Island in the background and people and underwater flying saucers and that bit about following the Gulf Stream that isn't the Gulf Stream, it's just a massive pipe and all that business is just glossed over.
Well, and also the fact that I mean, I might be being thick, but I think wasn't the point that they hadn't started operating yet. Yeah. That they blow it up before it can give some orders to Moonbase.
Yeah,
right?
And
it hasn't. This is all kind of preparation to deceive. The people on Moonbase.
Do you remember when people get given a budget, and this is in real life? People get given a budget that they have to spend by the end of April. Otherwise, they lose the budget for that year, and then they can't get the same sized budget for the following year. It happens a lot.
This is why our road is being resurfaced next week.
Exactly, because they have to spend the allocated funds. Do you think the aliens were given a massively huge allocated funds and said, right, here's your invasion budget, you have to spend it this way? And some alien at the back's going, yeah, but we could just achieve all of this with one flying saucer and a tape recorder and an impressionist. We don't have to create a giant underwater base or have pipes running or in fact have any of this business or build a giant dome or clone people or get people who are not just clones but sound the same or have the same uniforms made or anything like that. No, we've got this massive budget and we really need to achieve it before the end of April. That is our budget for this, and that is basically the real flaw with the whole of it. It's so much style over substance on behalf of the aliens, it's unbelievable.
Do I take it that means that you didn't like this episode?
No,
Michael?
I love this episode as long as I put my brain in neutral and don't think about it too much. The minute that I overthink something, I mean, God knows what that would be like. The minute that I start thinking about this episode, right, you know there's an issue. But the best thing to do is just go, hang on, it's an Anderson series, it looks lovely, let it go. So I do.
But, I mean, do you feel that this episode, more than others, suffers from that problem? Because I know before we really embarked on this podcast, we didn't really know much about UFO fandom. No. And since being part of various Facebook groups, I've come to discover that this episode in particular is thought very poorly of, which surprised me because I've always enjoyed it.
It looks great. In
spite of its flaws. And the question is does it come in for some unfair stick? Because as you've pointed out, there are issues with it. But is it a particularly worse alien plan than some of the others that we've had? What do you think?
Well, all right, okay. Let's leave the budgetary comedy out of the way for a moment.
Yes.
Right. Now, there's Angela Lansbury, the Murder, She Wrote woman?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Murder, She Wrote went on forever, right? I think it went on for about 12 years, right? And she was already old at the time. I think she's about 200 now.
Yes.
But in an interview, she once said that she'd been told that a TV series should be cancelled the moment that there's a storyline where one actor is playing two parts and they get to meet themselves. Right, that is the point. That is the it's the 1950s equivalent of jumping the shark. Right, you just go, no, that's wrong. And if you think about it, the minute Doctor Who starts doing that is the minute that the format ends up changing. Right, and it happens a couple of times. Right, it happens happens for the first and second Doctors early on. Right, so you start going, oh, okay, that's the point where
I think that science fiction has to be the exception to that rule.
Okay.
Because I mean I don't know much of Angela Lansbury's career beyond Murder, She Wrote and the couple of Agatha Christie movies that she was in. Oh, and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Anyway, I can't think of a sci-fi movie that Angela Lansbury's been in.
I'll tell you what, I'd watch it.
I would, yes, I would. But because
arguably a bed, knobs and broomsticks, but let's not go there.
Yes, because I think the moment that you have a non-science fiction context in which an actor is asked to play two parts,
and it isn't the Man in the Iron Mask or the Prisoner of Zenda.
Well, okay, so we've got there's lots of classical kind of reason for doing things like that, but there's always plenty of science fiction reasons why you can have people that look like themselves.
Yes,
you have time travel plots where somebody meets themselves, and so it's the person. I mean, Red Dwarf does it in episode 2, I believe.
Yeah.
Where Lister meets old Lister, and Lister sees himself a few minutes in the future in a mirror. So, and you wouldn't say that Red Dwarf jumped the shark at episode 2, right?
No, arguably I can see that point. Yep.
And I mean, yes, if like you say, if you're talking about Doctor Who, those are somewhat silly. When you kind of think, oh yeah, the Doctor happens to look like the Abbot, and he happens to look like Salamander, and his various companions happen to look like. But that plot's been done over and over again, and I don't think I don't think it's
that's all right. And let's face
worse for it.
Yeah, and you've got your Star Treks, your alternative universes as well, where everyone, are they the evil ones? Well, they've got beards.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right.
And I mean, I think if we're talking about in the pantheon of alien plots, we last week, what did we have? We had people being hypnotized and given superhuman powers such that when they touched electrical things, they blew up. Now, is that any more or less preposterous than beings that can do plastic surgery on themselves to make themselves look like our main characters?
That's weird.
I don't think so.
They say it's how did they do this? Cloning's a much more sensible option and much more likely, but plastic surgery.
Well, I mean, that's just Straker's assumption in the moment, isn't it? I always thought that line is a bit daft. That they have no idea. They have no idea why these people look exactly the same.
No, fair enough. Right, okay. Actual issues with this episode. All right, number one, and you know this is going to be the big one for me. This is bigger than any of the rest of it. It was supposed to be Keith Ford's big episode, and he's not in it. Right, that is the unforgivable truth, as far as I'm concerned. Right, that is.
I had not thought about that, but yes, of course. If he hadn't left the series, then Anderson's role would have been Ford, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Ford would have been the one that they suddenly go, oh, he's a traitor, and then that would have had a much bigger impact than, oh, it's guest star of the week. Though I suppose being guest star of the week, you actually can believe that he's a traitor for that portion of the episode where you don't know that he isn't. Whereas with Keith Ford, it would have been a case of, oh no, he can't possibly be turning traitor.
Yeah. Because that's the sort of thing that I got you.
The big thing would have had to have been a Captain Yates thing where you go, no, he actually is a traitor, for that to have worked for Keith Ford, I think.
No, I was thinking more. It's fine. I was thinking of a Babylon 5 type thing with sleeper agents and things like that. There are precedents elsewhere for people who you think are the good guys all the way through to be the bad guys, but even they didn't realise they were the bad guys. So there are, at least, you've got the Captain Yates, I've got the Babylon 5 thing. So we can cite other examples of that being the case.
No, you're right. That's actually, the Babylon 5 thing is apposite, actually, isn't it? It's your, and I suppose it's Total Recall as well, isn't it? The good guy thinks he's the good guy and doesn't realise that he's a bad guy who's had a personality transplant or whatever it is that makes that happen.
Yes.
So, but yes, you're right. I think this would have been an interesting episode if Keith Ford had been in that role.
Yeah, and of course, the other thing that I can't forgive is the thing that I've got issues with that's been getting on my nerves a lot during the current Space 1999 rewatch, which is they show the best bits in the episode. Now, I know I've had I've had that issue going on for some time, and I've gone over it over time and time again. We don't need to retread this. I just don't like it.
I don't mind it, but I think the fact that they start doing it with these last batch of episodes, it throws you because you're like, oh, this isn't what I'm used to from this format. Like, Thunderbirds does it all the time. Space 1999 does it all the time. Fair enough.
Well, the thing is, when even as a kid, when Thunderbirds did it, I knew to look away. I knew the beats of the music when it changes. And in Space 99 it's the same. I know when it goes, as soon as it flashes up at a certain point in the music, you look away. Then the orchestral bit of music kicks in, you can look back.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see what's happening in this episode, because I'm going to watch the episode.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, I've signed up for this. That's fine. You've already got my vote. That's fine.
By the way, we didn't know what happened to Jackson at the end of The Man Who Came Back. And here he is, alive and well, giving injections to Anderson and assuring us that the drug is infallible.
We do. We love it. I love that. What's up with the drug? Oh no, it's infallible. This is a great drug. Yeah. It's the best drug ever.
Well, give him some more. Give him some more.
I know. He's got no qualms. You really do. I would. That's a comedy sketch waiting to happen. The health and safety. I mean, we've discussed it before. How awful the HR department. Its shadow headquarters must be. Even Torchwood has a better HR department than this, and they all die.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. I mean, you would have a complaint after this, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Right. So this storyline opens with that really nice bit where Ed Straker is actually doing his proper real job of sitting in a studio watching a documentary, which is a really nice touch. And then I
like that aspect of the episode.
Yeah, I do. And also that's how the storyline gets introduced as well, which is good.
Yes.
It's got a really nice route in as well, and you can't. It's nice to see them watching a film on a screen and it not looking completely fake as it so often did when you see people watching films in a cinema. Even now on things like Crunk on Britain, she's in the cinema watching the screen, and it's been put in afterwards in post. And the UFO recorded 50 years ago looks more realistic than this one did, recorded last year.
Yes. Yeah, it's a really nice scene, actually. I mean, I love the character of the film producer because he's so earnest about his film, and he has no idea that he is providing a way into a UFO plot for Straker. Yeah. And Straker doing his... he's just been paid. He's just been paged, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've just remembered. I've got a meeting that I'm late for. Can I?" And you just think that this must be happening all the time, but we don't get to see that side of things. And it's almost like maybe David Tomblin, having come in, has kind of reread the Bible for the series and gone, "Oh, hang on, there is this whole aspect of they're in a film studio," because we get that in this episode. We get it. I mean, we get it again next week with Time Lash. We get it the week after with Mindbender for various reasons, which we will cover in those episodes. But it's almost like they're saying, like, oh, we could make use of this aspect of the story that we haven't really been making use of for a while in opening up storylines. I suppose the weakness for me is perhaps why. Yes, there's something mysterious going on, but why does Straker decide to investigate? Because there's no reason that this is going to be anything to do with the aliens. It just turns out, because it's an episode of UFO, that it does.
Yeah, it might have made more sense if the diver had brought up some sort of artifact that Straker identified.
Yes, I mean, I suppose it is. They do link it to, a ship got blown up.
Yeah.
And presumably no government claimed it.
Yeah, but there is... let's face it, the problem with that is you've got any point between 2 points is a straight line.
Yeah.
So that's how ley lines came about, where people just go, oh yeah, if you line this up and this up, it's a straight line. Well, yeah, because that's how straight lines work. Yeah. I mean, I'm a cynic about such things. Really? Yeah. And... But, right, another thing that we really do need to go on about in this episode, I think, is the really good underwater model work. Now, I know is this the last bit of really great underwater model work that we ever get from the Andersons?
Unless there's an episode of Space 1999 that involves underwater stuff.
No, but I don't know about Space Precinct. I think, see, Terrorhawks has got some pretty good underwater stuff, but Terrorhawks is a creature of its own doing,
which I have never seen.
Right. Well, if you're a good boy, I might lend you some. But
yeah. Well.
Yeah. No. Seriously. Like, and you've forgotten any times to watch new programs. But yeah.
It's. I mean, as ever, it's beautiful underwater filming because they've been doing this. They could do this in their sleep at this point.
Yeah.
But then it's a case of, let's put some Stingray music on it.
Yeah. True.
Just to make you think. But then, what do you think of the music inside the dome? Because, to my mind, it vaguely reminded me of the Sea Devils, and then I remembered that this is like 2 years before the Sea Devils. As my
best friend Andy once described, the Sea Devils music, just some electronic farty noises.
Yes.
But yeah.
But it's brilliantly done electronic farty noises. But I think perhaps because there's that link in my head, I'm like, it's an underwater episode, and it just we both do this, don't we? We link things up to Doctor Who.
Yeah. You just can't help it.
And I don't know how you feel, but the whole, once they're inside the dome and then they're running around corridors, because it's in colour and on film, it makes you think possibly more of 60s Star Trek. But there is also an element of Doctor Who in that, they're running along corridors.
Well, they're running along empty corridors.
Then they're running along the same bit of corridor shot from different angles.
That's a good point.
One assumes.
Yeah. Well, the camera looks up and establishes, that opening shot of the interior of the dome. It could have been shot last week. It genuinely could have, and it looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, entering the dome, bit weird, right? All that business.
I thought that was really clever though, like the way that is shot, and again it gives a suggestion that the aliens' technology is vastly superior to ours. That they've invented a way of kind of going in and out without an airlock.
True, because it heals itself. I get that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, here's the thing. And I know the dome is a basic, sphere shape, but Quatermass, Quatermass 2 specifically. You won't have seen the TV series, but you will have seen the film, possibly.
No, I've seen all of them. Yes,
right.
I've seen all the TV series. Well, I haven't seen episodes 1 to 3 to 6 of the Quatermass Experiment because nobody who wasn't around in 1953 has seen.
No, but
has seen those
for the Quatermass Experiment. You've probably seen the David Tennant reimagining.
I've seen the 2 episodes that survive. I've seen the movie and the David Tennant reimagining.
Yeah, right. So
and I've seen Quatermass 2. Yes.
Right. So Quatermass 2, big domes, alien invasion of Earth, but they've created big domes in the middle of the countryside, and it's an alien invasion where they've created a big dome to live in. The only difference is that these are people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, the aliens are prone to overly complicated plans, but after 23 episodes, we know this.
Well, yes. Quatermass 2 also basically ripped off by Robert Holmes for the plot of Spearhead from Space. But we are now massively digressing. Yes. I thought the filming of the fight between Straker and Foster, and then the bit where Foster is talking, the real Foster comes back, and then they've got the corpse of Foster on the ground. The way that's filmed is, I think, is really, really clever.
Yeah, there's a whip pan and an edit.
There's a whip pan where you're like, there we go. Oh yeah, there we go. And he's back to, and that there's somewhere in the middle of that whip pan is a cut, but they've hidden it so cleverly.
Yeah.
That you've gone from Michael Billington in a wetsuit to Michael Billington in a shadow uniform.
Yeah. So what do you think? I know we were talking a few minutes ago about the underwater sequences, but what do you think about the immovable divers. When they come out and they're clearly models and their legs don't move at all, so they have to be given those things to pull them along on. Once they're being pulled along, it goes all James Bond. And there's that well-known.
Well, no, I mean, my thought was Stingray again, because they have those things essentially in Stingray.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, they're just slightly less. They're a bit more colourful and fancy and Technicolor.
Yeah. Well, let's face it, within, 6-7 years of this, you've got almost precisely the same sort of thing going on, but probably by the same model people, for Moonraker and all the Bond films that had all this kind of business as well. So,
yes, I mean, I think, didn't Meddings go on to do, Derek Meddings went on to do Bond films, didn't he? So, yes, there's no wonder there's a crossover between the two.
Right, so I will just take a quick glance at my notes. Did you?
I was going to say you wrote some notes because I didn't.
Yeah. So popular fandom, according to you, doesn't really rate this very much.
I've just seen a lot of comments on Facebook groups when people bring up Reflections in the Water. There's some people that go, "Yeah, I like it," but then a lot of people go, "Oh, it's terrible," and I'm like, it's no more terrible than other poor episodes of the series, and in fact, I don't think I would even go so far as to say it is a poor episode of the series.
No, not at all.
I think it is maybe a little odd that you go to all this trouble to kind of set this thing up, and then it turns out that the aliens can't mimic human voices, and they have to use tape recorders. That is a little bit silly.
Yeah, and it does make you think, well, the whole plot could have just been achieved with the tape recorder, but this is kind of where we came in. So
but they make the point, because they have that conversation about, well, why don't they just do that? And then Straker makes the point that they'll be seen on video monitors.
Yeah.
So that whole thing does make sense. That they have to do it with synchronizing lips and tape recordings.
No, that's fair enough.
And I suppose the tape recorder bit just makes it look all the more clunky, more so than perhaps some of the other technology that's on show, that you kind of go, okay, if this was in a real future with all this stuff, then all this stuff would be a lot more miniaturized and fancy looking. And I mean, it's the same issue that you have now with Star Trek original series is supposed to happen after the current Star Trek Discovery, and that doesn't make any sense at all.
No,
visually doesn't make any sense at all.
And I don't know why you would do that.
Well, I mean, they have, and it's quite entertaining, but you just have to forget, I think.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, this is the first ever Star Trek series I've not watched on broadcast. And I can't be bothered. The thing that it does excite me is the new Star Trek series, the one that's got Patrick Stewart in it.
I am quite excited for that.
You see, that one, you'll get me sitting down in front of that, no problem at all. But the fact that I have to go all the way to Netflix and I have to scroll through, and then there's subtitles. Oh my God, there's subtitles. Right, I'm dyslexic, right? By the time I've read what the Klingons are saying, the episodes are finished, right? And I can't pause it. Well, I could pause it, but the screen will forget where I'm up to. It's pointless, right? And then they don't look the same, which annoys the hell out of me. I mean, it was quite annoying when they suddenly had foreheads after the 1979 film. And sorry, you see, I am pedantic when it comes to my sci-fi, but that was explained away. No, but I get it.
They have an explanation in series 2 as to why the Klingons look different.
Oh no, and they also had but the explanation was perfectly acceptable. The one that was given away in Deep Space Nine, in The Trouble with Troubles.
But the explanation that they have in Star Trek Discovery as to why they look different in Star Trek Discovery Series 1 is that because they were at war, they'd cut their hair off. So the Klingons in Series 2 have hair, and they look a lot more like Klingons used to do.
Yeah, but then they lose all of the bumps on their forehead in an explanation that's discussed in the episode of Enterprise, which is how come...
which I've not seen.
You see, Enterprise is so much better than people think.
So I've seen series 1 and 2 of Enterprise. While in that kind of period of my life when Zoe was needing to sleep on people, and so I would watch an episode or two every day while she was sleeping on me, and then that period ended while I was just into series 3 of Enterprise.
Oh, trust me, it gets worse. My daughter just turns 10 next week, and it does get worse. So try taking your daughter for swimming lessons, and then when she's like, 2 years old, the instructor suddenly says, right, they can all swim now, all the adults out the pool, and we're like, oh, but this is the only exercise we get all week. This is this is our like major bonding moment with everyone. Oh, okay, we'll just sit on the edge and read magazines then for the next 8 years. Right, so, and that was the best time, when small children sleep on you and you've got an excuse to just go, hey, what's on the TV? And it's like, no, I'm giving a full attention childcare. It's not the fact that I'm watching old science fiction at all. That's a heartbreaking moment. They don't tell you about that at parenting class, do they? No.
No.
Because as a bloke, if you knew you had an opportunity to watch as much TV as you wanted for about an hour a day, and you could legitimately get away with it, you'd so sign up.
You think that brief period of time kind of outweighs all the other things that might put people off having a child?
I think it's important. I think it's vastly underrated. Look, do you remember that bit where you went to the parenting classes and the women were all taken away to be told something precarious, and then all the blokes were left in a room together, and I think it was about cesarean sections or something, and which was weird.
Probably,
yes. Yeah. And all the blokes were left out, and basically we had nothing in common apart from the fact that everyone's going to have kids. So everyone whips out their phones, and it was basically just a who's got the biggest iPhone competition. And everyone whips out their phones and goes, look at these 3D scans of my child. This is a 4D scan. This is a 5D scan. You can tell what my child smells like. It's just, they've all got images on their phones, and oh God, yeah. So if we'd been told at that point that there were some tiny moments of joy that you could claw back for yourself, things might be a bit different.
Yeah.
But then,
I mean, I did have something in common with one of my NCT chaps, in that I think at some point during the classes he wore either a Star Trek or a Thunderbirds t-shirt.
You see, I don't get that at all.
I knew that he was all right, but I had pretty much nothing in common with any of the other guys. So, well, needless to say, that couple are the ones that we've kept in touch with the most.
No, fair enough.
We have massively digressed.
We have, right. Shall we cover who's in this episode? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's a cracking story, and as long as you don't
nothing else to say about it.
Well, not on my notes. There's not at all, because all right, you've got this wave of destruction heading their way because they're going to try and jam the signals. Sid's getting a bit uptight. You're going to try and lie to the computer. You've got I still think it's a mistake not to have had Keith Ford in this, because we never did find out what he was up to apart from that, why he wasn't around, which made me sad. And then
we did. I mean, we have to talk about the ending. Oh, actually, no. There's two. There's one other thing, and then we have to talk about the ending. One other thing is, how do you feel about Virginia Lake at this point since her reappearance?
Well, I like the fact that she keeps going to the computer and asking it what's happening, because Straker keeps going, find out. And the computer gives the correct answer straight away. And then it constantly gives the correct answer repeatedly throughout the whole program. And they keep going, no, computer, you're all wrong. And the computer's going, I think you'll find I'm right. I am actually. Yes. Computer says yes.
But it's right, but it's not right in enough specificity for it to be helpful. And also, she just ends up looking like she's all that she's there to do is feed stuff into the computer and then read what comes out.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's true.
I'd forgotten how poorly served she was. Up till this point, because she gets stuff to do she definitely gets stuff to do in the next episode, which we will talk about next.
True.
Time.
No, she does. She definitely gets things to do.
She definitely gets things
to do. But in
this
episode, she's. Let's write. Uhura in Star Trek. Yeah, there's a woman on the bridge, but she's answering the phones. We get that, right?
Yeah.
Here, there's a woman in charge now, but she's got as much to do as Alec had, which wasn't very much.
Yes, and I suppose this episode highlights that, because you're back to Foster and Straker kind of buddy cop thing. So let's talk about the ending then. Okay, so you've got all these UFOs coming in, and we've never had anywhere near this. I mean, the most we've had before in an episode is 3, I think. Or there's like 2 groups of 3 being a decoy. Whereas with this, you've got maybe 50 Is it supposed to be 50? I can't
It says
remember.
40. It says
Is
40
it 40?
on my
Okay.
notes.
There's a lot of them anyway, and you've got these
No,
two
the
waves.
second wave of 40. Yeah.
There's a second wave and the first wave. And you just kind of think, even without the aliens' plan of tricking Moon basically to not intercepting, right?
Yeah.
How the heck do they blow them all up? Because with 3 interceptors, you're lucky if they get 1 in most episodes. And then in this, you're like, each interceptor hits. You've got the ground stuff on the moon, which is kind of firing and blowing stuff up. And then you've got Skydiver seemingly like... And we've established last episode that there's more than one Skydiver, but in this episode, you still just see the one. And suddenly it's like, oh, amazing. We shoot everything down. The aliens don't shoot us. And hey. I think, do they lose? I think they get maybe one of the moon force things gets the ground to air things gets blown up.
That's like radio controlled anyway, though, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is. Yes. But having said all that, it's a brilliant spectacle. I mean, it's beautifully shot and executed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although I can have all those problems with it on one level, I think it's a really dramatic and exciting ending to the episode.
No, you are completely right. It builds up the tension. It pays off, and it's nice that the aliens are almost going to win again, which is great.
Yes. And I suppose there's that other thing at the beginning of the episode where you learn that they've got these deep space tracker things that feed into Sid. Because we've talked about this before about, well, how does it actually work? Well, it's not just Sid on his own. There's other things out there. Yeah,
Sid's more like a processor, really. Yeah.
Yes, I mean the implication is that some of these things are manned as well. Like, did you get the impression that thing was manned at the beginning of the episode was manned?
It wasn't it a similar model to one of the ones that was used as a space probe earlier on, and that was manned.
I think we'd seen one before. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think it deserves its reputation for being so bad, right?
No, I agree completely. I genuinely do. Yes, I mentioned the flaws earlier on, but you know what? There's flaws in every episode of UFO, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, if it was a truly bad thing, we would have given up long ago. And it's not.
It's a great series. Well, should we do our Anderson watch and all that jazz?
We should, because I've got very few notes. I've only managed to recognise one extra cast member, and I don't think he ever did Doctor Who. And if he did, I'll be very surprised.
Who did you recognise then?
It's the main doppelganger bloke.
James Cosmo. Yes.
Yes. Who was in Wonder Woman not so long ago, which was good.
I mean, he's in lots of things.
He is. God, yeah. He's
one
been
of those
hard working actors. He's in everything.
Yes.
I was like, it's Crossroads, it's Alvida's Impet, it's and so on and so on and so on. It's everything. But the last thing I saw him in,
he's one of those people that in my head, he's the old guy. Like, I can't think of, and then there's this, which is so early in his career that he's almost unrecognisable. Like, it's one of those things you go, until you're told that it's him, you're like, oh, that's what that guy that I know so well from being an old guy looked like 50 years ago.
But also, more importantly, I think this is one of the few times he doesn't get to use his Scottish accent.
Yes, he's
definitely RP in this.
He's definitely RPing. Yep. So yes, it's. I mean, in the same way, Lou from Neighbours cropped up, and you're like, oh, we know Lou from Neighbours as this old guy in a soap.
Yes.
We know James Cosmo from his more recent work. Has he been in? I'm sure. Has he been in Game of Thrones as well? I don't. That's not something I've seen.
Here we go.
I have a feeling he's been in Game of Thrones.
Here's a shocker to everyone.
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones.
Well, no, neither have I. But pretty much everybody who's anybody's been in it.
I have totally read the books. That's not a problem. Well, all right.
Yeah.
I have had the books read to me by Roy Dotrice, but I have which was so if you can get those to listen to, they're fantastic. But the books were very thick, and it would have taken me decades to read them. I thought, I'll read the books first, then I'll watch the series all in one go when it's finished. Right? There are several things wrong with that. 1, Roy Dotrice died. 2, the books weren't written. And 3, the series is going to finish way before the books finish.
Yeah.
So they're my problems. But I've heard Roy Dotrice read all the books that exist before he died.
And presumably somebody else has done it since then.
No, nobody's done it yet because nobody's released any books since.
Oh, because he hasn't finished writing another one. Oh, yeah.
He hasn't finished writing. Yeah, the CV series is now way ahead of the books.
This is the point where I look up James Cosmo again and discover that he hasn't actually been in Game of Thrones anyway.
Well, he should be. He probably will be in some of the episodes that haven't been written yet.
He was in Braveheart as well.
I was going to say, he was in Braveheart, though, wasn't he? But I don't think he was in Highlander.
He was in Highlander.
He was in Highlander, of course he is. He's in the scene with Celia Emery, weirdly. God, sorry, that has made me a truly bad fan. I love Highlander so much, I have the sword on my wall.
Oh, there we go. Yes, he was in Game of Thrones. I was correct. There we go.
Did he play Sir Standing at the Back? Yeah.
No, he played Jor Mormont, apparently.
Oh, right. Quite an impressive part.
There we go.
By the way, apparently there's a lot less sex in the books.
Right.
Like, by a substantial margin.
Right. Similar amount of violence, I suspect.
Well, yeah, but in a book you're just kind of skipping past going, and there's a fight. Yeah. Oh, and somebody gets poisoned with a blade. Thanks very much. Moving on. Yeah.
But anyway, he's not in Doctor Who Watch or Anderson Watch or Prisoner Watch.
He's in the Everything Else Watch.
He's done everything else. So you didn't spot anybody else?
Well, the captain, I'd say the captain on the ship, but I wouldn't say the captain. I'd say first mate on the ship looked really familiar. But no, that was it.
Anyone. So the first seaman and the captain of the ship both appear in Prisoner Watch. So well done for that. Particularly as the first mate was hardly in it at all. So the fact that you recognised him is impressive.
Yep.
So the reason that you recognised him is Frederick Abbott, who played Potter in the episode "Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling," which is not to be confused with the character that Christopher Benjamin plays later in The Prisoner. Basically, it's the guy who gets paid to follow Nigel Stock around when Nigel Stock is playing The Prisoner.
Right.
So him, and then the skipper of the ship played the Doctor, who is looking after the General in the episode The General. Oh no, not the General. That's the computer. He's looking after the Professor in the episode The General.
But the General still needs someone to look after it.
Yes, but that's the Professor.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll cover that when we get to that in The Prisoner. Yes, that was an actor called Conrad Phillips.
Yes.
And then there is a Doctor Who guy, but I'm not surprised you didn't spot him because I didn't either, because he's a voice actor in Doctor Who, and so I had no idea what he looked like.
Was it Nicholas Briggs?
Well, Nicholas Briggs would have been what?
At this point,
5
7.
at this point.
No, 7. Hang on. I actually do know how old he is. Is he 57? See, I worked out the other day how old he was. No, he would have been 5 or 6.
Yes. Anyway,
yeah.
Gerald Cross was the insurance man.
Right.
So when they're having that conversation about who's liable for the diver being bumped off.
Right.
And that was Gerald Cross.
Oh, I'm thinking Gerald Flood. Sorry.
Yes.
Gerald Cross,
well, yes.
I don't know.
Gerald Flood also voice acting as Chameleon and King John. No, Gerald Cross was one of the Megara in the Stones of Blood. The robots that come out and try the Doctor for letting them out.
We are the Justice Machines. We've got tinkly voices.
Yes.
Slightly camp and floaty about.
Yes. And then we have one entry for Anderson Watch, which is Keith Bell, who plays the film director. So I think he's the guy on the boat that's communicating with the underwater cameraman. I think
with the beard, yes.
With the beard, yeah. And he appeared in an episode of The Protectors called Think Back.
Oh, everyone's been in The Protectors. I really should embrace it so much.
Right, but there's someone else that I want to mention, right?
Yes.
Because we mentioned his counterpart in a number of episodes ago. Did you recognise the film producer?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
What, the old man who's very earnest?
Yes, the old man who's very earnest. Right. So, do you recall that in the episode The Square Triangle, the husband who they were trying to bump off,
yes.
I mentioned at the time that he had been in an episode of Fawlty Towers.
Yes.
Right, so the film producer is the other guy from that episode of Fawlty Towers. Yes. So there's Basil has this problem because Mr. Hall, who is played by the guy from the Square Triangle, twitches a lot. And then Mr. Twitchin, who's played by the film producer from this episode of UFO, is trying to find out what Mr. Hall's name is, and Basil can't bring himself to say Mr. Twitch. Oh no, yes. Anyway, I'm trying to explain a comedy scene from Fawlty Towers. If you haven't seen the episode Gourmet Night, go and watch it because it's very funny. But I felt that he deserved given that the other part of that scene had been in the square triangle, I thought he deserved a mention because I was like, I'm sure I recognise him from somewhere. Why do I recognise him? Oh, he's Mr. Twitchin from Fawlty Towers.
Right. Got it.
Yes, got it.
And all that's made me do is go, I wonder where my Fawlty Towers discs are.
Yeah. I know exactly where mine are. They're on the top shelf of my shelf because it start at the top of the shelf is TV and F comes reasonably early on in the alphabet. Because after I got married to my wife, she made me change the order that I put my DVDs in because I put my DVDs in order of year.
Yes.
They came out, and my wife made me change it to the more standard alphabetical order.
It's all right. All of the world will hate me for this, but with the exception of my Doctor Who discs and a handful of Blake Sevens and the like, everything has been, I hate saying this out loud, deboxed and put into folders. I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed. I feel dirty and wrong. I apologise. Yeah. Yes, and the Blu-rays are just hanging onto their boxes by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, well, I like to have my DVDs on shelves.
Well, unfortunately,
we're fortunate enough to have the shelf space. So
that's true. My Doctor Who's, because I was reviewing them, I got, I'd say the majority of the DVD range are promo DVDs. So I had to make my own boxes. So I bought the slim cases and printed my own spines. So I've got I've got every Doctor Who DVD that was ever released commercially, and the recons, all in actual release order, on 2 shelves, which I managed to get, which is very nice. But that's it on the DVD survival box range.
Oh,
I know.
Well, I just managed to bag myself a really long room within the house when we moved house for my office, so I bought myself some really, really long shelves so I could get all my DVDs in one row.
Oh, well, I don't have an office. I just squirrel things away. Right.
Yeah.
Leaving things there. Yes. The whole world is feeling sorry for me. Yes.
Before we go, we have to have a slight point of administration, and this is entirely an oversight on my part. Because I assumed that the Blu-ray order was the same as the DVD order.
So did
I. But it's not. So if you're watching on Blu-ray, you are expecting Mindbender to be next, but we're following the DVD order because that was the order I had in my head, even though we're watching the Blu-rays. So next week is Timelash.
Yay! Or not yay, depending.
Then we'll have Mindbender and then The Long Sleep.
Then The Long Sleep.
Are you looking forward to Timelash?
Well, I am, yes, but I'm looking forward to all 3 of the last 3. To be fair,
yes, they're going to be some fun conversations.
Yes,
but until next time,
yes.
This has been This has been Reflections in the Water.
Or Reflections on the Water? No,
Reflections on the Water. Anyway, we will see you at some point in the future.
So next time we are definitely doing Timelash, yes?
We're definitely doing Timelash, yes.
Right, Timelash. Not the Doctor Who story, which I'm sure we'll bang on about as well by accident, but Timelash.
Can we not talk about the Doctor Who story?
Look, if you give me 1 minute to rant about it next time, we'll be fine.
Okay, we'll have 1 minute to get Doctor Who Timelash out of the way, and then the rest of it will be talking about UFO Timelash.
Deal. Right, so until then, be seeing you.
Be seeing you.